Today's video is very simple and interesting, and that is, can you dongle through a phone, power an Abyss here? This is the Dynafi, the last generation of the Dyna series. It is not easy to power it, but definitely not the hardest. I would say as the Stealth here is harder, the Abyss 1266 is harder, and something like the HE6 is even harder. But it doesn't make it a simple headphone to power, and my aim is to find dongles that can power this in an acceptable way. And my benchmark will be high. It cannot be too far off from my M17. So the Field M17 is known to be very good, very powerful, and you can power most modern headphones with it to deafening levels with zero distortion. Now, whether you enjoy the sound or not depends on your taste of the amplification, but for me, it is a very pure sound that is very enjoyable for most headphones. Not the most enjoyable, but enjoyable enough. And it's a great platform to test stuff. But today is really about dongle power, and I want to say that it has to connect to the phone, because if I cannot connect to the phone and power my headphones, well, I can use my M17. If I'm going to bring a laptop out, I'll use an M17. So that's my thought process here. It has to be connected to a phone. Now, why is this important? Is because a phone limits the amount of power it gives to the dongle. So the dongle not only must have powerful enough amplification to run headphones like this, but it also must be able to use the power, the small amount of power given by the phone to power those headphones. So it's very important. It's a combination of both powers. And lastly, it has to sound decent. Once again, not too far off from my M17. So I went to Zeppelin & Co., a local shop that sells headphones and earphones. And the reason is very simple. It's because down there, they have the most selection of dongles that I can find. So going there allows me to try different brands altogether. And most importantly, they even have a cafe. In fact, they are a cafe that allows me to drink some tea while testing to eat. So I can sit there for 2-3 hours and test, and I feel happy about it. So I went down and tested. As you can see some of these photos here. I have the Canon RU7, the i5 Hip 3, and 2 of the iBasos together with the quiz style. Now I start off from the worst when it comes to connecting to the phone. Now how I compare is very simple. I will play the songs on my M17 and my phone because I use the same streaming service. I will just play to the same point and play it on my dongle. Straight away I'll swap into my M17, both in balanced connection, and listen to it. Now my Dynafi has a balanced cable, so I just pull out, plug in, pull out, plug in within seconds. So I think this is as close of a good A/B as it is. I mean, anything better will require me to do a blind A/B testing, but this is as good as it is, and it combats our very poor memory of sound. Now with that comparison in mind, let's start off on the worst one. And if you are saying the worst dongle when connected to the phone is the Canon RU7. It just doesn't have enough power. Connected to the phone, it just clips the moment, I would say literally clip with no sound, the moment the bass hits at normal listening level to me. Now, just to note that based on going to a lot of audio shops and talking to shopkeepers, I believe I listen to music on, I'll say, as a softer volume. Based on my measurements, it's about 70 to 73 dB. That is the range I listen to for average sound. It's not on the high side like 75, 80 kind. So that is the volume to me that is comfortable. In fact, 80 is very loud for me. I can't take it. Now, so that being said, I listen to those headphones, and at the level that I'm comfortable with, the RU7 just clips. Now, don't blame the RU7. Blame the iPhone, because the iPhone just doesn't give enough power. If you go online and read reviews, the RU7 should have enough power given connection to something like a computer to power even something like the DCA Stealth, which is terrible, to really loud levels with some distortion at max volume. And if you just don't go to those very loud levels, you should be able to get enjoyable levels with no distortion with a DCA Stealth. So the RU7, I believe, works pretty fine if you connect to other things that's not a handphone. But once again, if I'm not connected to my handphone, well, I could have brought my M17 out anyway. So yes. So the next device I go for was the i5 Hip 3. And the i5 Hip 3 there was distortion. I do not know why. No matter what setting I do, there's distortion. And the funny thing is that that thing has an internal battery, so it's not like sipping power from my handphone, but it just doesn't work. So I'm not sure what's distorting it, but it just didn't work for me. No matter what settings I do, I mean, there are a lot of buttons. I press every single one, flick the switches, it distorts. So, well, I don't have all the time in the world to go exploit it, so off it goes. The next thing I tried was to borrow two iBasos. So they are the iBaso DC04 Pro and the iBaso DC06. This is not the Pro's DC06 because it's not out yet according to the shop guys. So I tried both of these iBasos. Now the iBasos itself, the DC04 does play to loud enough level, but it sounds very flat and to me, relatively poor sounding. It sounds, to my memory, no better than my MacBook Pro, or even maybe worse than my MacBook Pro. That's the feeling I get. Can you imagine that? It just doesn't sound great. It sounds very flat, sound undynamic, something's wrong there. So, well, off it goes. Then I tried the DC06. Now, this is where things get good. The DC06 isn't that expensive. I mean, it's, I believe, like $20, $30 or $40 above the DC04. It is half the price of a Crystal M15. And it sounds good. It sounds good enough, really. I enjoyed the music. If I didn't do comparison, I wouldn't have known what's the problem. So it does have a smaller soundstage, it does have a weaker bass, it does have slightly less dynamics, and on louder volumes, it just feels like it loses gas. That's how it feels like. But once again, if I was not comparing to the M17, it would have been a great choice. And if that was the only dongle that worked that day, I would have bought it because it sounds good enough for the Abyss Dynafi. But wait, the last guy, the guy that's with me now, this is the Crystal M15. Now, the Crystal M15 is a current-based amplification amp, and this guy is really efficient. Through my handphone, it powers my Dynafi to a level that is comfortable, with no distortion, and most importantly, it sounds great. How good does it sound? Even the shopkeeper is surprised. I told him this. The sound, when compared to the M17, is close. So close that I could almost not tell the difference. And that's really true. I listen to tracks, mainly those Japanese pop tracks, Idol and YOASOBI's The Brave. So that's the thing. Then I also listen to Suzume and Grand Escape on the same day while trying all these dongles out. After listening to all the tracks, doing A-B comparison, there is difference, and let me explain to you what are difference. This guy, slightly thicker, just a touch thicker. It's also slightly more extended in the low bass. There is just some additional low bass there. Now, those low bass, I'm not really sure whether it always exists there. But with the M17, I kind of hear it, but don't feel it. But with this guy, I feel it. Now, the soundstage of this guy is a touch smaller. Like really, really slightly smaller. Like if I were to hear and close my eyes and concentrate on the size, a touch smaller. Not as bad as the iBaso DC06. Probably cannot be told unless I did direct A-B comparison. And then this guy also has slightly less clarity, especially at louder volumes. At lower volumes, you probably can't tell. At louder volumes, if you were able to do direct A-B comparison, repeat it 10 times across 4 songs, you will and should be able to tell that there's a loss in clarity, especially at higher volumes in complex passages. There were this part in Suzume, the song, there was bass, vocals, and some xylophone or bells behind. All these three combined together, on this device, it just feels slightly less clear than this device. So I believe it's a separation problem there. But it's very slight. So slight, once again, is that if I don't compare A-B like this, where I only can swap a cable in few seconds and tell a difference, you probably can't tell a difference. I mean, it takes me a lot of effort to even do it in the A-B direct, swap cable situation. I believe most of us can't even tell that such a difference exists. So that's really about it. The Crystal M15 can power my Abyss Dynafi to a level that is acceptable and enjoyable. That's the important part. Enjoyable. In fact, it made me think that this guy costing 1/6 or 1/7 the price of an M17 could give me similar sound quality. Is just mind-blowing to me. I mean, the rest, they were cheaper, but they couldn't provide the same sound. The RU7 just has problem with headphones. So I mean, this guy, great. So then, if you were to plug this guy into your computer, you should be even able to power something like the DCA Stealth to an acceptable level and enjoy it. So that's the important part. Probably the RU7 will have the same capabilities when plugged into a computer, so don't be sad if you bought an RU7 because it probably works, just not with a handphone. And that's about it. Can I, dongle power a beast? Yes, you can, but you must try. And hopefully you find the one that works for you, that you enjoy using it. And for me, the M15, benchmarked to an M17 Fuel, was the winner. And I hope you enjoyed this short little sharing. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.